What's up, Navigating Academia family? I hope you are doing well today. My name is Dr. J. Phoenix Singh, and I am here to be able to answer a valued viewer's question. Today's question comes from Brittany. So Brittany, thank you so much for watching. Love you to death for it. If you have additional questions, feel free to put them below. Would love to hear them. If any of you who are watching this video are not yet a subscriber to the channel, please do subscribe. We would love to have you here with us. Today's question from Brittany has to do with the role that tenure currently serves. And it's so ironic that Brittany asked this question because I read a story today in the Wall Street Journal. I literally have it right here in front of me on my monitor, and this all has to do with the pandemic. So right now we're in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. It is 2020 in December. So this is the context for you, okay? And I can tell you right now that there is an unbelievable amount of cuts that are happening at universities, globally, but especially here in the United States that I've heard of. And I mean, we're talking about like 20 to 30% cuts in different projects, right? And just, I mean, but in total spending that is allowed in given years. This is unprecedented, I can tell you right now. And so this Wall Street Journal article has to do with tenure as well. And it says, hit by COVID-19, colleges do the unthinkable and cut tenure. Now, the tenure model essentially is something that's been around, it seems like, time immemorial. But the basic idea was that when you got tenure, which usually in the US is when you go from assistant to associate professor. You get tenured, you're an associate professor. That's the idea usually happens. Tenure clock is usually around like 5 years. Some places you can do it earlier, like 3 years. Some places it's a bit longer, whatever, right? But usually it's around 5 years. And what happens is that you basically need to do enough professional service, for the university, with the department, in your field externally. You need to give enough conference presentations and papers. You need to get enough publications in certain high-impact journals, so on and so forth. You need to do a whole bunch of things or whatever to basically prove your worth. And once you've proven yourself, then you get tenure. And a lot of people, once they get tenure, they just kind of chill out, right? I've had people specifically tell me that, well, I was just working really hard to get tenure, and now that I've got it, I can kind of cruise a little bit, right? Now, it is true that there's still expectations. Come out with a couple of publications a year, teach classes, and get good evaluations and so forth, but it's almost like doing medical residency. When it's done, then it's like, things get a little bit more chilled out and you get paid a lot more. I have a number of cousins who that's what they've done, and that's what they report to me. So what happens here, right, with tenure is that the idea was supposed to be that, well, when you get tenured, then you're kind of protected. And you're protected in such a way that essentially you can't get fired. That's the idea. And the reason why initially people had it is not so that, academics could coast. The idea was that then they could really explore some controversial topics and, really push the edges of science. That was the idea initially. But it's kind of morphed into this other thing. A lot of people have talked to me over the years about academia and academic careers, and they say, this is so great because it's so secure. You get tenure and then you're always going to be great. I've said in other videos, and I will say it again in response to Brittany's question about what I think about tenure. To be honest with you, I think it's like a farce. And the reason that I say that is just because somebody can't fire you doesn't mean that you can't quit. And the reason that's important is that I have seen firsthand, right? This has not happened to me, keep in mind, right? But I have seen this happen, right? Departments that really want a tenured faculty member out can make that person's life like a living hell. And the way that they can essentially do that is in a variety of ways, but mostly by basically giving them, many classes that they don't want to be teaching, that are like irrelevant to what they do, putting them on kind of multiple panels or giving them multiple responsibilities that they don't want to take on, giving them a heavier course load than they would normally have, giving them so much stuff that their lives are miserable, and they're like, I gotta get the hell out of here. So they end up quitting. I have seen this, multiple institutions on multiple occasions, right? I've seen it happen. Right? Now, is that the norm? No. That is, I'm telling you right now, that is not the norm. But if you really, really want to kick somebody out, and you're like the president of the university, for example, you can kick them out. This happened to me when I was down doing my postdoc. I was at the University of South Florida, right? Mental Health Law and Policy Institute. When I was down there's all these news stories locally and all this, little scuttlebutt, around the department. all about, there was an individual who, he was a professor, I believe he was from China, and had come over to the States maybe a couple decades earlier, and it started, rose up the ranks, and these things got tenure. But apparently the guy was just bad-mouthing the university like all over the place, right? And he had a lot of kind of like strikes against him kind of in terms of internal politics in his department at the university in general. And he was like publishing things against the university in the press, both domestically and internationally back in China. So it was this huge thing, right? And at the end of the day, they fired him. They took him out of there. And yes, there was this massive lawsuit and this kind of stuff because he was tenured. There was a big lawsuit, but the lawsuit got thrown out and then the guy was just fired. So is it possible to fire somebody who's tenured? Yes. It is possible. So don't think that if you get tenure that all of a sudden you're like some untouchable person. And especially in this day and age of like cancel culture and this kind of stuff. I made a whole other video you guys can watch in terms of about publishing controversial research findings and all, right? But if you do publish something and it's, when I say it's just a little much, what I mean is that if, you know what? Watch that video. That's all I'll say. It's a good video. Definitely check it out, okay? But that's what I've got for you today. Those are my views on tenure. So at the end of the day, I think it's a really beautiful institution that essentially in contemporary academia, I think it's more of like, like a badge of honor and this kind of stuff and like a milestone in your career as opposed to something that's going to keep you super safe in your career. Okay, Brittany? So thank you guys so much for watching. If you want one-on-one consultation sessions with me, take a look at the website below. I'd love to help you out with anything. Getting into grad school, getting a postdoc, anything you're passionate about that has to do with academia, I'm your guy. Make sure you tell your friends. All right, folks, talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Peace.